All right, Pez fans, it's Monday. It's May 12th. I'm out for a little afternoon recovery ride, heading across the Lionsgate Bridge, going through Stanley Park, one of the very popular rides here in the city. Park's been closed off to traffic, so the roads are wide open and there's probably going to be a lot of bikers in there. Some of them might know what they're doing. So let's see. Alright, with the Lionsgate Bridge behind us, we are about to enter the park. This is the turnoff as you're heading south from North Vancouver. As you can see, those orange barriers, and I've got this closed off to cars. That's a sweet sign for us cyclists going for a spin through Stanley Park.
Now, just up here on the left is where I would normally turn to follow the loop road around Stanley Park. But today I decided to keep going. I'm heading to English Bay, which is one of the most popular beaches in the city. I wanted to see what it looks like as we are just starting to ease up the restrictions in Vancouver, see how many people are out, and see what social distancing looks like as we slowly come out of lockdown. At several points through the park, the Parks Board have got barriers set up. That's to keep the cars out, and also just to provide some information to cyclists about what's going on in the new traffic regulations around the roads. Now, normally this area would be filled with cars. The parking lot over on the right would be filled because it's a super popular park. It's around 1,200 acres, basically off the peninsula of downtown in the city, and it's a favorite for people for just going to the beach, running, jogging, rollerblading around the park, cycling, of course, and just a lot of outdoor activities. We're now in the heart of English Bay. This is really where all the action is, and normally this would be crammed with cars and people and pedestrians. I don't know if you noticed, but the hot dog stand was back there and set up for the first time I've seen in a long time. The cones on the road indicate that this entire section of the city streets have been closed off to cars, and all that area over on the left there along the cones has become a bikeway and a bike lane. So no cars allowed in there, just cyclists. Here you go, you can see these guys going through. So it's actually been fantastic for cyclists. So just down here, I'm swinging right, and this is connecting me back to the loop road around Stanley Park, where we turned off just a little while ago. So this now really is back onto what is about a 10-kilometer loop around the park. There are going to be some beautiful views of the city coming along here, and it's really one of the most popular rides in the city. For guys like me who are doing, and active cyclists who are doing further rides, this is really something we pass through on our way going somewhere else and maybe do a quick lap through here. Whereas for a lot of other people, just making it around here once is a pretty big deal. There's one hill in the park. We'll get to that in a little bit. But other than that, it's just sort of flat, rolling, surrounded by forest. It's really a beautiful place to ride your bike. But like I said, most of the time it's packed with cars, and cyclists who are more pedestrian in their style of riding tend to be down on the seawall. All right, swinging left underneath that bridge, which is the Stanley Park Causeway, and leads traffic to the Lionsgate Bridge and over to the North Shore. We're now heading really into the main entrance of the park here. This is kind of where most of the traffic comes through to get into the park. As you can see, it's closed off again with barriers, and there's a lot more cyclists in here too, so it's easier to get to. It's closer to the city, so lots more traffic around this part of it. And of course, you get some people who don't necessarily understand the rules of the road and think that we can all go both ways on this, but the majority of people get that this is a one-way loop. It's always one way with traffic. It should remain one way with cyclists, but you still get a few people who have no idea and they just ride anywhere they want. This is approaching the east end of Stanley Park. Over on the right is downtown Vancouver. You can't really see it from here. You can just get a glimpse of the convention center over there on the right side of the picture. Coming up here also on the right is a statue of Olympian Jesse Owens, who was one of the first men to break the 4-minute mile, I believe, in the Olympics many, many years ago. And then up here again, just underneath that little shack on the right, is what we have here in Vancouver. It's the 9 o'clock gun. And it is a big cannon that is fired every night at 9 o'clock. Although during COVID and our 7 o'clock pot banging, yelling, screaming, honking sessions to support all the frontline workers, they're now firing the gun at 7 p.m. every night. Coming into view here now are the mountains of the North Shore of Vancouver. These are, they're spectacular. They look fantastic. It's a great view to have, and it's a great place to live. This is a bit of a make-out point down here. A lot of people will park here with their sweeties. Look at the view and hopefully the cops don't boss them. Coming into view now is the Lions Gate Bridge, which connects Stanley Park and Vancouver to the North Shore. That bridge is about 70 or 80 years old. It's 3 lanes wide. As you can imagine, it's crammed with traffic all the time, and we are in desperate need of something new, but none of the local governments are willing to buck up the dough it's going to take to replace it. So as far as we know, we're going to be living for a long time with a 3-lane bridge in the middle of this quote-unquote world-class city. Now over here on the left, you might see that gigantic wooden arch. That thing is called Lumberman's Arch, and it is a super popular place for weddings throughout the year. Needless to say, it's not getting very much love these days. coming up here just past these giant trees is a tight left-hand sweeping turn that signals the start of the main obstacle in the park, which is a climb that goes up to about 50 meters above sea level. Lasts for about 1 kilometer, this thing, and it's not what you'd call a hard climb, it's just a hill. But I do remember back in the early days when I was a new cyclist that getting over this thing was a bit of an accomplishment. And I can sort of relate to some of these poor people. Look at that lady pushing her bike. Yeah, when she gets up to the top of this thing, that will certainly be an accomplishment for her. Ah, there's a guy even walking. Yeah, you could be down in the seawall, buddy. Coming up to a part of the park where we can reconnect to the main causeway and get back on the bridge and head back to the North Shore. And whoa, look at that! Getting passed by a fixie guy. This guy was haunting me the whole way up the climb. I could hear him standing up, grinding out that one gear. I didn't know what was going on. He was kind of freaking me out with all that noise back there on his bike. But the guy was, he's not even wearing cycling shoes. He's just wearing these like little canvas flip-flop things. And look at him go. He's going faster than I am. Hats off to you, buddy. So here we are connecting back onto the causeway, and the bike path is going to take me back across the Lionsgate Bridge to the North Shore. Our exit point when we started the ride was just over here across the road on the left where we started our loop. And that's it. That is a nice loop for you around Stanley Park. Hope you enjoyed that. If you ever come out to the city, you're going to for sure want to take this ride in. It is one of the classics here. Let me know if you have any questions. Drop a comment down below. Give us a thumbs up if you like it. And thanks for watching.